Okay, Mr. Berkat Kiros, MBA from Seattle, Washington, and the high official of the city council in Seattle, and Mr. Bulayo Hailu. Welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Just
Cyber Power of Tigray today, as you know, we have a genocide war going on in Ethiopia. Before we start talking about it, please introduce yourself to our audience. I will start with Mr. Barakat first. Mr. Barakat, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ephrem. I'd like to make a little bit correction. I am not a representative of any city council. I am just a community activist, and also I serve as the CIC, which is Community Engagement Commissioner for City of Seattle. Currently, I am the chair for City Coalition of Immigrant, Refugee, and Communities of Color, as well as for Washington African Media Association, and also for the COVID-19 Community Alliance, an organization of 18 communities of color.
Okay. Your sound is a little bit low. Can you use your earphone or something? Okay, Mr. Bizayo, can you introduce yourself for our audience? Who
Yeah,
you are,
my name is.
what ethnic group you came from?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this chance. My name is Bizayo Haile. I came from Ethiopia, Oromia region, currently, and I live here in Seattle. That much is enough.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, our first question is, as you know, there is a word declaration from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. What do you think? What's your analysis about the word Ethiopia as of right now?
Well, I mean, if I have to start, as you know, yesterday, November 4th, the former illegitimate Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, which is rather...
Speaker the earphone. Use your
I am using my computer, so let me
okay.
see. Can you hear me now? Much better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, yeah.
All right. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Much better? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but there is some kind of... okay.
I don't have any background noise. It is coming from you.
Okay.
Could it be from me?
Okay. Probably. Now much better. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was a background noise. I'm going to start your question and try to highlight the current situation in Ethiopia, in particular in Tigray. As you see, so many unsubstantiated rumors are flying, especially that started with the former prime minister, that the revolutionary Tigrayan forces has attacked, a base, which is really a baseless that doesn't have an iota of truth. As I said earlier, yesterday, the former illegitimate prime minister, with a rubber stamp, parliament members of his Prosperity Party announced that he ordered the defense forces of Ethiopia to launch a military operation in the Tigray region. Following Abiy Ahmed's decision, ordered the military operation against the Tigray People Liberation Front, it was successfully repulsed. After 2 years, what we heard, the economic blockage and budget and calling names and purging Tigrayans from federal possession, the decision to send the military not only a signal an escalation of tension between the federal government and Tigray regional authorities, but also puts many lives at risk and threatens the downward spiral human rights in Ethiopia, which many Ethiopians are accustomed since the reign of terror. I mean, you heard this recently, what happened in Wolaga. You heard it in many regions of Ethiopia, this reign of terror. A lot of innocent people are dying up to this stage when we are conducting this interview. The found allegation to state of Tigray with these blind supporters spreading falsehood on social media. Tigrayans across the world must be conscious and vigilant and stay tuned until we hear from the state of Tigray's official statement on the current situation. Because now there is so many unsubstantiated rumors are flying around that the authorities in Tigray started the war, which is really baseless. That doesn't have any idea of truth. I can say it again. So we call all authorities in Ethiopia, in particular the defense forces, both federal and regional, to ensure that human rights of our citizens are respected, in particular in Tigray region, and also ensure all Ethiopians, all Tigrayans who live in Ethiopia. And this is, if something happened to them, it is a breach of international law. And those authorities going to be conscionable as a genocide. And they have to be aware of, and they have to follow all the international rules and regulations, because the jurisdiction lies on them. No one is going to escape from such. And we also call authorities to immediately restore telephone and internet communication in Tigray, allow people to communicate to one another in accordance with the right of freedom and expression, and to enable monitoring of the Human Rights Watch across Ethiopia. And this is a very flat situation that we are living for the 2.5 years. So, and I'm gonna, urge, especially the defense forces, they have to protect the lives of the people. This is happening because of one illegitimate prime minister wants us to destroy the federal system of Ethiopia. And we're gonna call, as a Tigrayan origin, I call all the Ethiopians, Oromo brothers, Wolaitas, all Ethiopian nationalities, that we have to shoulder ourselves and fight in unionism to keep Ethiopia from these destructive forces in the name of Ethiopia, as to create a utopia vision in Ethiopia.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Barakat. Mr. Bzayo, the same question, if you could continue to answer that. Unmute yourself.
Thank you. It's so sad this is unfolding like this, and the government, if we have to call it the government, it's not a government anymore. Since October 5, it's illegitimate group, it's a tag. The constitutional mandated period of that transitional government that was supposed to take the country into a democratic process has expired, and then they are there without any kind of legitimacy. According to the constitution, what they should have done is, bring all parties together, have conferred on how they can take the country into the next step and make a sort of a transitional government where the Tigray region is also included. By the way, the Tigray region is the most the region that takes the most credit for the current development in Ethiopia, in terms of that relatively the nations and nationalities started governing themselves with all its problems when TPLF was on power. But what is happening right now is the worst of every thing on Tigray people and on Oromo people. They create a drama, and they try to blame that drama that they created to kill people, imprison their opposition and strong leadership in Tigray. I have to say something about what has been going on for the last 2 years in Oromia. They have been jailing people without reason and killing people, more than, I think, close to 2,000 people since Abiy took power in such very short period of time. Number of innocent civilians killed without any sort of engagement whatsoever is very devastating. And very recently, even days ago, in Oromia region, Western Oromia, they have conducted a drama that they can find an excuse to go war to Tigray, because the Tigray is in the north tip of the country, and this is southwestern part of the country where the so-called atrocities happened. And we strongly believe that it is a staged drama. It's the same as they killed Ajalu to imprison Jawar Mohammed and Bakala Garba and all OLF and other prominent Oromo politicians. They just have to find some sort of excuse that is that they think is admissible for international community and Ethiopian people. And it is absolutely unacceptable that an Ethiopian so-called government, it's not a government, it's not a legitimate government, in collaboration with a foreign country. It is a treason that Abiy Ahmed has done. And if there was, a parliament or a proper legal process that should have worked, Abiy should be in prison by now, because he absolutely 100% without no question conducted or committed treason. If you have observed on social media last night, the Eritrean press was saying that a number of Tigray militias are surrendering to Eritrean forces. What does it mean? This is completely going on in coordination with Abiy, and I think the army, I should underline on this one, the army is not an individual, the army of an individual person who's illegally on power. The army is Ethiopian People's Army. That includes Tigray regional state. You cannot go on war where there is no any kind of crime or any kind of problem existed, and the Tigray regional government did not call for help of the federal government. What they say, the Tigrayan militias attacked the Ethiopian forces, that is BS. I'm sorry for my expression. Where were they? Why didn't they do the same thing that they claim they have done for the last several years? This army has been there for years. like for 20 years, as they say, which is true. And there was no clash whatsoever since even Abiy took power, and the Tigray government was constitutionally and with election mandated and governing the region. They did not do anything. Why is it immediately after the Walaga drama and days after, like I think hours, 48 hours later, he has to make a sham parliamentary decision or whatever consultation you can say. Even the parliament is not a legitimate parliament to wage war on Tigray state. That is unacceptable.
Great. So the unelected federal government of Ethiopia declared war on Tigray on November 4 to 2020. The Tigray government denounces this illegal and unjust war in the strongest possible terms. The declaration of war against Tigray is an extension of the genocide acts that Abiy Ahmed has been committing on the people of Tigray. So it will only expand the political and humanitarian crisis in Ethiopia and further destabilize the greater Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region. With the people of Ethiopia resides in the United States of America, calling for immediate cessation of all forms of aggressions and urgently come to an inclusive national negotiations. So what's your call for the United States, for European Union, for humanitarian, international humanitarians? What's your message for those profit and non-profit organizations, churches, to stop this genocide war?
Yeah. Okay. Let me say on this one. We've been
Can you hold your phone? It's making noise a little bit, Zayo. Hold it stable.
Okay. How about now?
When it's wiggling, it makes noise.
Okay, it's not wiggling from my side. Okay. We've been calling and crying for the intervention of international community, including the European Union, American government, and UN establishment and human rights agencies. We've been asking them continuously when people in Oromia were massacred in broad daylight. It is not a story that we create. It is something available on videos, on pictures. Every evidence is there. In Nigeria, one person was killed, and then it has gone to the International Criminal Court, and the prosecutor, the International Criminal Court prosecutor made a statement immediately after. But when it comes to Ethiopian case, after thousands of people killed, nothing has happened. This, if anything goes wrong in Tigray and in Ethiopia, just like the ways they made mistake in Rwanda, they neglected Rwanda and Rwandan genocide happened. In Ethiopia, the same responsibility bears on international community if they don't swiftly take action. They are responsible. They are collaborators of Abiy's genocide against Tigray people, against Oromo people, and against Ethiopia, against Sidama. Everyone who has perished due to Abiy's dictatorial intent. Abiy wants to be the king, the seventh king of Ethiopia, which will never happen. Ethiopia is a constitutional democracy where the nations and nationalities govern their own regions. It will not happen. It will not come back, even if it means to everybody who believes in democracy has to swept out on that from that land. We cannot allow Abiy to become the seventh king, as he openly said. And then I call upon international community, the government of America, UN agencies, human rights agencies, to not condemn, take action. They have to make clear distinction between fiction and facts. The fact on the ground is different. the one that they say is completely different. They should not listen to the Abiy regime. Secretary Pompeo on his Twitter account said the Tigray government faction or the militia attacked Ethiopian forces. That's not true. That's a lie. The Ethiopian government creates any kind of lies to attack whoever they found it threatening for their clinging on power.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. First of all, it is an open chapter that has been played, this drama, for 2.5 years. The level of terror, intimidation, killing, and also imprisoning opponents or political party figures, it is going on for some time. I mean, look at it, what's happening in Oromo region, and it's what's happening in Sidama, Arusi, Walaita, and so on. So since this guy came to power, Ethiopia has in a wrong path. All the lies about the economic progress in the country, despite it's getting spiraled down to zero, and he just said 6.7 economic growth in the parliament. So what I'm trying to say is nothing truth comes from this system. So from this system with its hunch members of right wing, I call them a very pseudo nationalist, that they don't care about Ethiopia. What they care is about themselves. By any cost, they want to cling to power and try to use force and intimidation to stay as long as they can. And the Ethiopian people, especially the nationalities of Ethiopia, they know what it means 25 years, 30 years. This is a democratic constitution created that all nationalists to live equally in harmony. This is the system they want to destroy. I mean, the neighboring president of Eritrea, he said that many times he doesn't appreciate the constitution of Ethiopia. It is a source of division. And this is a guy who openly that he announced he cares about the affairs of Ethiopia. And the prime minister is working with a foreign agent against Ethiopians. That's what he does. He does so many agreements without consultation of the rubber stamp of parliament. He just became an absolute monarch. Look what's happening on the Renaissance Dam. He made an agreement. That's what President Trump is telling us. And then he cut 1,000 megawatt from the electric station. And also, God knows, we don't know what he did. Many. So what I'm trying to say is 2 points. Whatever agreement made with this regime, it doesn't reflect the interest of Ethiopia, one. Second, all Ethiopians who are peace-loving, they have to lobby their senators. They have to work for their nation diligently. We just have enough that kind of subversion and inferno for so long. If Ethiopia, as an Ethiopian, as a Tigrayan, as an Oromo, we can survive only when we respect each other, when we recognize who we are, and when we have a space. But this regime don't want to give a space to all nationalities. They want to cling to power by any means necessary, trying to use the Western who can give them like Nobel Prize and all these things that really doesn't have measure to the level of decency. And this is really, it tells me that we have to work hard for ourselves. We don't have to rely, and we have to do a good political campaign across the world where we are. Especially, I will ask my Oromo friends, we just have to create an alliance, to work together. And this enemy can destroy us if we don't have the unity and cooperation among us to propel forward. This guy is supported by Western agents and trying to destroy Ethiopia. I mean, look at it. What's happening in our country right now? Are we better off now with 2 economic digits growth to the level of zero, what is next? This is a guy who forbid food for aid for the Tigrayan people who comes from international donors. How could you go low? And I remember during Derg has done the same thing. So he's just following the path of Derg. And you know what happened to Derg with such kind of cruelty. So I think what we have to do and what we have to ask all Ethiopians is just to be truthful to themselves and try to, you know, work with their community leaders across, especially the diaspora, whether they live in Europe, in the United States, trying to tell the true picture of Ethiopia, what's going on. Ethiopia is on the verge of like Rwanda. I hate to say that. We just have the means to avoid before going to that level of self-destruction. And I call upon the defense forces. Their loyalty is not to a king or to a former prime minister who wants to be. Their loyalty is to keep the Ethiopian independence and from any enemies from within or from outside, to keep Ethiopia and the Ethiopians together. So they should not hear any order from this prime minister, who is a former prime minister that doesn't have any legitimacy since the end of 25th September, because his mandate is over. There are so many countries doing this, even our United States, who lost 230,000 as a result of COVID-19, which is much worse. People are dying here than in Ethiopia. They are conducting their election. And this guy, he postponed the election because of COVID-19. Just go out of Addis, go out of this big city. People even have the decency to wear masks. So such kind of veil doesn't have any significance except excuse to stay in power. So I will ask Ethiopians, as they have done before, try to embrace each other and try to live together and reject the notion of prosperity party or who is leading by this prime minister that is taking the country to up heaven.
Great. All right, Mr. Brazil. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
So I know you are from the ethnicity of you are Ethiopian, and at the same time you are from Oromo community. So as revealed by several human rights and media reporters, Ethiopia is now best known for extensive internal displacement, killings of civilians, widespread social unrest, high-profile assassination, and fast economic decline, where the national election has been postponed indefinitely with the excuse of COVID-19. Political leaders have critically opposition parties have been put in jail. So in Oromia, how many people went to jail without due justice?
Yeah. When the government, when dictators admit they have imprisoned a certain figure, it is a good 1/3 or 1/4 of that amount. So the government itself gave the international media that they have put about 9,000 prisoners only from Oromia in the aftermath of Hachalu's assassination. So if they admit 1/4 or 1/3, we are saying it's close to 35,000 all politicians and supporters of Oromo political parties who are put in jail. And the number of people who are brought to our attention, which we have picture of video of, is more than 1,000 plus. Some people say it is close to 2,000. Everybody, it's a little bit of a disorganization, the way we keep our data. So it's a huge disaster in Ethiopia. It is the way they conducted it. First, they give you names like you're this and that, and they use the media. The media is controlled by one ideological believers, and specifically from one ethnic group I don't want to mention. It's very clear to Ethiopians, and they give you names like Tigray. To be a Tigray is a crime. To be an Oromo is a crime in Addis, in Finfinne, which is the original name. I like to say it like that. So we have lost so many lives. Just last couple of weeks ago in Walaga, Nakante, young boys studying in a room were, shot dead. 5 of them shot dead in one room. They were sleeping. There is nothing that they can show on the picture. We didn't see anything except mattress and books and some, student materials. But then when they try to convince Ethiopian people and international community that they were, a battle base or a group, a group that defends its own community, which they are not. And then they made a drama of, grenades and guns, handguns, and stuff like that. And the floor is different from where they killed the people, those kids. The floor design is different. The mat is different. They said they found it from them, and it's not blood stained. Those are brand new, just collected from the military or the police store to convince people that they have reasons to kill those young people. And in Dredawa, if you have seen 3 weeks ago, which the Ethiopian Human Rights Coalition reported, you can see 3 soldiers. It's not police, it's soldiers. It's the army going after young people who were chanting, release, free Jawar Muhammad, free Bakala Garba. Nothing. They don't have stone, stick on their hand. They were not a threat at all to anyone. They just went behind them and killed one of young boy called Awal. And yet the international community is not doing anything. I remember in Hong Kong, there was a new law where the Chinese government mandated that certain, I don't remember exactly, but that law was broken by one person, and then he was imprisoned. That was all over the globe. All mainstream media was reporting. It was just an imprisonment. The guy was jailed and released. It was on the news. What about the killing openly? It's not hidden. It's not something that we are reporting with a hearsay. There is evidence for it. And the international community is not doing anything. Now, what we have to do, the Ethiopian nations and nationalities who believe in the federal system, they should back the Tigray state without any condition. We, as an Oromo, I believe all Oromo communities are angry about what is going on with Tigray. Should not happen, and they should not find any single excuse to go on war with Tigray regional government. And in Oromia, it has to stop without any delay. The way they are imprisoning, the mass incarceration, the killings must stop, and all those who did this must be brought to justice. We cannot expect justice in Ethiopia. We demand international criminal court to investigate and independent investigation to take place for Ethiopian crimes. You cannot the government that committed this crime cannot investigate its own. It's like writing a love letter to yourself. They cannot investigate the crimes they have committed. International community, whether it's a regional, group whatsoever, but independent investigation must take place, including Abiy must face justice. He has openly said he's going to kill as much people as he wants to preserve the country from disintegration. Where is the sign of disintegration? There is nothing. No one said Tigray is almost, it's governing itself. It never said it is seceding from Ethiopia. There is no sign of it. Oromia did not say, even if ultimately, if these things, if these atrocities against our people persist, we are going to demand that. Because if you are in a federal country where you are selected to be persecuted, killed, incarcerated, and displaced, and yet you stick to the same federal system, I think it's foolishness. Nobody would demand or even want to stay in the federal system where your rights are not respected. So what I would like to say, I categorically oppose the killings of Amharas in any place, the killing of Oromos, as much as I oppose the killing of Oromos, and I categorically oppose the invasion of the Tigray regional state. They have done nothing, even if there are people who are criminals. It has to go through legal justice. It has to go in a process, not in blanket, open war against the entire region or civilians there. It has been for more than 2 years. The roads are blocked. The roads on the land have been blocked not to go to Tigray, and there is no supply going to Tigray. This by itself is genocide. Genocide has different phases. You can kill physically. You can prevent them from exercising their cultural, human right. That's genocide. What is going on Tigray people is untold. What's going on Oromo people is untold in Ethiopian history, and yet the international community is tone deaf, and that is really concerning. If they have to cry for Nigerian one protester being killed, if they have to cry for what is happening in Europe, what about Ethiopia? This guy has been decorated with the Nobel Peace Prize. It is a wrong prize gone to the wrong person in the right time.
Yeah, if
It
I
is
may,
unbelievable. An Ethiopian army should say no to any order that is coming from this illegitimate government. Ethiopian army should protect the Ethiopian people and its constitution. It should not be the servant of a single individual who claims himself the seventh king of Ethiopia.
yeah,
Okay.
if I may add, Ephrem, to the discussion what's going on in Ethiopia right now. Ethiopia and Ethiopians are yearning for justice, and justice has been absent for too many years, for 2.5 years. I want to mention the high-ranking level defense forces cold-blooded killing in his house, General Saara and General Gazai, and also Engineer Simeno Bakala, and those are few, and Hichalu, those are few public figures to mention. Still, their family are yearning for justice. That's the justice I never seem to get to their families. And this drama, and anyone who cares for Ethiopia, they should see this kind of political drama that has been orchestrated like a soap opera by this administration, in particularly with the blessing of Abiy Ahmed. I mean, I don't believe all this is happening without the blessing of him as a former security spy himself. That has to be noted, and Ethiopians, they should see this in a clear mind and clear eyes. What's happening is people want to see what they want to see. People want to hear what they want to hear. We just have to stop that kind of nonsense that the country is going through many difficult spiral positions right now, unless we come to our senses and condemn such cold-blooded atrocities that's happening across Ethiopia. And I agree with Brother Buzune Buzayo. What's happening in Amhara, our Ethiopian brothers and sisters, has to be condemned, whoever perpetuated that. And this is a system, and this is a government, a regime that he cannot protect innocent lives, and he is starting a war. Come on, let's be common sense. Just he cannot protect innocent people, and now he's waging a big-scale war against the Tigrayan people. I mean, this war for Tigrayan people, they are hardened with commitment, resolution, and they're going to fight it over as they have done for centuries. And nobody wants to see a war. Nobody is a winner when the war is broke out. Everybody loses. And that's what the government and the state of Tigray, they pled. They want to talk and resolve whatever differences they have in a round table. His refuse, his arrogance, his contempt of the rule of law has already created this kind of a problem in our country. Therefore, we, as the Tigrayans especially, we have to be very vigilant, as I said earlier, and we just have to support our people, our government, under this difficult circumstance, whatever political differences we have. This is about survival. So I urge all Tigrayans in diaspora across the world to unite to overthrow this fascist regime that is really creating havoc with a neighboring dictator. And that has to be noted. And also, I'll call upon Eritrean Defense Forces and Eritreans. We have enough war. We don't need any other war. We just have to work for common goal, for prosperity and democracy, for betterment of our country and our people.
Great. So it's be recalled that the federal government decided to withhold Tigray regional state share of the federal budget and social protection resources funded by global donors such as masks and other aids that support the need in the region. The regional state of Tigray has denounced and declared those moves as act of genocide. Abiy Ahmed is, as you know, who is a Nobel Prize winner, is giving us a gift of another Rwanda to Ethiopia, another gift for the entire world, another Rwanda, instead of making peace in the world as a peace prize winner. They could ignore us, but we are seeing another Rwanda in East Africa again. So now a dark storm of war is once again flashed in the Horn of Africa. Abiy Ahmed is openly committing disloyalty. He has phony alliance with the dictator Isaias Afwerki to assault Tigray military and Tigray people. If not declined immediately through concerted effort by the international community, this crisis may lead to greater risk of disintegration of the country with far-reaching consequences to the greater Horn of Africa. with the existing mutually reinforcing problem of food insecurity, recent desert Lacosta infestation, and the COVID-19 pandemic, the country and the region at large may face a devastating humanitarian crisis. So the whole entire problem is, what do you think the Tigray is going to be? So we need to call immediate ceasefire and termination of all forms of hostilities at this time. We are asking United Nations to send a UN peacemaker army to Ethiopia now. We demand removal of Abiy Ahmed from power now and establish transitional government. So we need to relay a strong message to the entire world. So, Mr. Barakat, the whole entire process, I want you to get 2 minutes to relay your message to the entire world regarding this.
Thank you, Ephrem. I would like to call upon all Ethiopians, in particular Tigrayans across the diaspora, to be vigilant and to see what's going on in our country, Ethiopia, in particular Tigray region. We have been insulted in many ways with associated of poverty, with our numbers. There's so many things happen in our history. You know, there is no one generation that has been seen peaceful without war. And we just have to be very vigilant and work across the globe. Try to lobby wherever we are, whether we live in the United States or Europe or Australia or Canada, even in Ethiopia, to work closely with the regional government of Tigray to overcome such difficulties. We should start contributing, we should start lobbying, we should work on behalf of our people. Our unity is the one that brought us to this stage, to be where we are. Our weakness should not be a distraction for our future. Our strength should be strengthened day to day and work work closely, despite all the political problems we have. This is the time we need unity. Our humanity is at stake. So unite all Tigrayans across the world to combat such a fascist regime who is growing up in Ethiopia.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Barakat. I know you are so busy, you have a lot of going on, and Mr. Bizayo as well. Today, Cyber Power of Tigray, we have made this interview to show our solidarity with Oromian brothers. Again, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Ephrem, for the short notice. Hopefully, we'll come better prepared for the future. And we just have to stay vigilant and just keep working together to restore peace and order in our respected areas, whether it is in Oromo or Tigray.
Thank you so much.